Hello everyone, I'm back with another Reddit Addicts episode. If you find my videos entertaining, please kindly subscribe and like them. Thanks to everyone for your suggestions and kind notes. Now, let's get started with today's exciting stories.
Caught my partner with another man in her hotel room. Backstory. 11 years ago, out of the blue, my wife told me she wanted a divorce. We had a 2-year-old at the time. That divorce went through and custody was split 50-50. Fast forward 2 years, and I met my current partner. She was in her mid-30s at the time and was pretty clear she wanted kids. After dating exclusively for a year, she got pregnant. Although I was very clear I only wanted one more child since I already had my hands more than full with the child from my first marriage, my career, the house to take care of, etc. Things went quite well for the first few years of the new baby's life, although it was always fairly obvious that she resented the child from marriage number 1, who is still with us 50% of the time. In any event, we've more or less supported each other through life's ups and downs over the past 5 or 6 years. There were some arguments throughout for sure, but that's true for just about every couple. About 1 year ago, I noticed she was distancing herself from me, looking for every excuse to be out of the house whenever she could. If it wasn't one appointment or work, or dinner with friends, it was the gym or me time or any one of a dozen reasons to be absent whenever possible. It took me a while to notice this, since it's not the type of thing one expects to have to watch out for. But once I did, I started doing some reading on why this was happening since I felt as if I'd been an ideal husband, or as close to as ideal as we flawed humans can reasonably get, which led me to the demand-withdrawal cycle and anxious-avoidant attachment styles and the 5 love languages. I shared my findings with her since I thought that only fair. Things started to settle down at the beginning of the summer of 2018, or at least, so I thought. In October, she was working quite intently on a project that culminated in 1-week conference in November in another country. When she got back, we got into a huge fight about a bunch of things in our past and decided it was finally time for counseling, which we began in mid-November and continues to the present. It was around here that I noticed her becoming very secretive with her phone, never letting me touch her iPad, etc. I know I'm not supposed to, but I started reading her texts where I found her talking and flirting with some guy from work. I didn't say anything at the time because I was waiting to see where it went. I'm not ignorant to the fact that people want to feel attractive to the opposite sex from time to time. It could have been a harmless flirtation. Well, her company conference was at a hotel in our city and capped with their Xmas party. In years past, she has gone the conference during the day and come home in the evening. This year, she went during day 1, then called to say she wanted her own room at the hotel to get away and have time to think. Except when she got back, I saw that she had texted the same guy her hotel room number. Obviously, I confronted her about it. I was livid. Her first reaction was to lie about it and deny. Once I confronted her with proof, she broke down and said he was just a friend and she needed someone to talk to, etc. Given our almost 10-year history, I decided to verbalize that. I'd given her the benefit of the doubt, but the thing is, my trust in her is broken. It's just so fucking deceitful, even if nothing happened between her and this guy, whom I had never even heard of, let alone met. Now I know she's the type to do this when the going gets tough. Since then, we seem to be better-ish. We're talking more, cuddling more, etc. But I'm having a great deal of trust issues now, and I'm not sure how to proceed. I don't want to break up my family over this, but the stress of feeling like I don't really know my partner of close to 10 years is getting to me. So, the question is, what do I do? Wait and do nothing? Leave her, making myself a single father to 2 little girls from different mothers, with all the heartache and headaches that come along with it? Something else entirely? Any advice greatly appreciated. Now for the next story. I caught my wife with her coworker while she said she was doing therapy. I, 37ME, caught my wife, Cass, 32F, were married in 2018. We met a few years before that through business because we are in the same industry. I love her more than everything. The reason I married her was because I had major turmoil in my life, and she stuck with me. We had a small break before we got back together. When we started talking again, I found out my father was indicted in a cold case murder. He was going to jail. The terrible part is my father had custody of my nephew L, 4M. At this time, I was the only family member able to take him on because my brother was currently in jail. Through this, she said we would do this together. I knew I wanted to marry her right then. My wife was told she more than likely was not going to be able to have kids, but I wanted to marry her anyway because of how much I loved her. I always wanted to be a dad, but was willing to sacrifice that because of how much I loved her. During this terrible time, I wanted something solid. We were best friends and have made it through so much. I felt like we could tackle the world together. I asked her to marry me on a weekend, and then we found out she was miraculously pregnant the following week. We went from talking again to a family in no time. Looking back, I wanted to have a long engagement to make sure we worked through any issues from our break, but instead we were thrown right in. We were married in 2018, and everything was great. I loved her very much, and our marriage wasn't perfect, but I was loyal to her, and she was my ride or die. Fast forward to 2021. We moved states because I had to take a new job because of our business being derailed by COVID. This new job required me to travel a lot, and she wanted to be close to her family for help with our 3 kids. We had 2 beautiful girls on top of my nephew. Cass quit her last job and worked locally with family. She hated being home because her family were full of constant judgment and asks. When help was needed from them, it was like pulling teeth. It honestly pulled us down and reminded her why she left the first time. Her old employer asked for her back. But this job was 4 hours away, and without really discussing it too extensively like a couple should, it required her to be gone during the week. She was going to work this into a remote position, but as she started the job, she started to like being away. She left me to take care of the kids, which I love them. But it was hard. I felt abandoned. I still traveled 2 days a week and had to rely and deal with her family. Not to mention all of the duties of taking care of 3 kids. She would come home on weekends, and it would be fight after fight. I wanted and needed help, but when she came home, she would hardly want to hang out with us, but instead go out with her brother and friends. All I wanted was help. The business we are in is primarily male. She started being distant, and we were hardly sexual anymore. Last summer, we moved to where she was working. Her time there changed her. She is a beautiful, tall blonde and constantly getting hit on by her male coworkers and customers. She had a coworker, Seth, 33M, who I knew before from being in the same industry. I liked him. I never felt threatened by him because all dealing with him have been good. He put out there that he was a moral man as far as I could tell. I did not feel threatened for he was not Cass's type. After we moved, I tried everything I could to make Cass happy. Listening, emotionally, supportive, complimenting. I bared any household task to try to make an effort to no prevail. What I did was never good enough. We finally got to a point where we both agreed. For us to make it, therapy was our best option. We agreed on individual therapy first. She found an online therapist, which I thought wasn't the best, but it was what she wanted to do. One day she asked what my plans were later in the week. I told her I didn't have to travel and would be working from home. She asked if I could work at a coffee shop that day because she wanted space. She wanted to work home that day and had a therapy session. I said sure. We have always shared our location due to safety. A few times in recent weeks, her location would randomly turn off. She said it was an issue with her phone. The day she had her session in the afternoon, she made sure my location was working and called me to make sure. I felt it suspicious. I asked her if everything was okay, and she said yes. I turned off my location, and 15 minutes before her session, she asked why it wasn't working. I told her my phone must have the same issues as hers. She asked if I was still the coffee shop, and I said yes. She said I could come back in 2 hours. My spider sense went off. I left the coffee shop as I could see her location was not at the house. I drove back and parked down the street. 5 minutes later, I saw Seth and Cass both get out and walk into the house. It was obvious that she wasn't going to therapy. I waited for 10 minutes as my heart was beating uncontrollably, and the thought of what I would find in there and how it would ruin me. But I had to know. I walked in, and no one was in the living room. There is no reason a man that Cass works with should be in any other room. I made it to our bedroom and opened the door to find them both about to do the deed. He was butt naked on my bed, with her almost there. I looked at her and yelled, "Is this a new type of therapy?" Both of them had utter shock in their faces. She ran after me trying to say it isn't what it looks like. I broke down. I didn't cry, but my body and mind took over for my world was turned upside down. Seth exited as quick as he could as Cass made sure she was between us. I tried to leave, but Cass was physically blocking me. I'm traditional in the aspect to where I would never physically hurt a woman. But a relentless version of Cass came out. All I wanted to do was leave. I was a former defensive lineman and used my old moves to evade her without having to get physical. Once I got to my car, she blocked me from leaving. In order to leave, I had to trick her like I wanted to talk, but I sprinted car to the car and took off. I think she broke a nail trying to grab the door handle as I was speeding away. I'm flushed with anxiety. I don't understand how she could have done this, after all I did was try to make her happy. The picture of that man naked on my bed is haunting me after he tries so hard to come off as a good man. Still have to process this.
We hope you enjoyed this story. Thanks for watching and hope to see you in the next video. And before you go, please be sure to subscribe for more.